Hey guys, thanks for tuning in to another episode of Filthy Rich Professionals. I'm NECA.
I'm Steven.
And you are on Rich Fridays podcast. So today we have the pleasure of interviewing Daniel Clute. He is the founder of Quest Education. And let me tell you a little bit about Daniel. Daniel went from being a college dropout to owning a seven-figure business.
Yeah.
That's impressive. His business helps people like you and I learn how to make money tax-free, obtain capital to grow, and have more control of our 401ks and IRAs. I think that's pretty cool.
It's real cool. I like that.
So we're going to tune in and see the discussion we had, and we'll see you guys soon. So we want to dive right in. We want to know, tell us a little bit about yourself, your company, and why you started it.
Yeah, so a little bit about me, and sometimes, we like to downplay what we've done, but we also can remember, where we've come from. So I can kind of just set the tone so people know, who I am, where I've come from, but kind of paint the picture. So today I'm grateful enough to contribute to Forbes. I own a company that does low seven figures, and I don't do this. I'm not saying this to toot my own horn and say, hey, listen to me. I'm talking way up here and you're way down here. I say this because that's not something I dreamed of doing. I never thought of being a business owner. I never wanted to write for Forbes. I never planned on doing any of this. My whole beginning, my whole journey started really, I would say, when I turned 12 years old. My parents got divorced, and all of a sudden it was just my mom and I, and we struggled financially. And I just remember thinking, man, this whole concept of living paycheck to paycheck and seeing my mom struggle, this is not the life I want to live. I'm 13, 14 years old. I'm like, man, I want to do something bigger and better with my life. I don't know what it is, but I want to do something bigger and better. And I don't have this cool Gary Vee story where I was a hustler in middle school and I was an entrepreneur in high school and things of that nature. That wasn't me. This whole concept of being an entrepreneur wasn't something I really even thought about doing until probably my mid-20s. I'm 33 years old today. So when I'm a teenager and seeing my mom struggle, I limped through high school. Like I just barely graduated high school. And I went to college because that's what society told me to do. This is back in 2007. And I remember I'm roofing at the time and I'm making like $18 an hour. And I'm thinking, Mama, we made it. Like I'm balling. And I end up getting into sales. I'm 18 years old and I was selling over the phone real estate services, coaching, things of that nature. And I found something that I was able to start making some easy, quick money. Easy in the sense of, man, I can make money on the phone. It's transaction based. Not easy in the sense of I've got to call 150 people a day and be on the phone 3 hours a day and work with the weekends, right? Sales is a grind. If you're in sales right now, you know what I'm talking about. So I was able to experience some decent success as an 18-year-old kid. And I had this past, though. My dad left when I was 12, moved to Mexico, and that's why my parents got divorced. And my dad and I were really close. We were really tight. And when he left, it broke my heart because he was my soccer coach, my basketball coach. Like, he was my best friend. And he left without giving me closure. He didn't tell me why he left. He didn't explain to me why he didn't come back. He never talked to me about why we weren't talking anymore. So I held on to a lot of resentment and I didn't forgive him. So I ended up doing some things because of this past of mine, which included drugs. I got addicted to Oxycontin, 18 years old. I'm making good money. I'm making six figures. It's 2008. I bought a house right at the peak of the market. And you already know the ending of the story, right? Lost my house. I lost my Range Rover. I think anyone that's made good money in their life has hit rock bottom at some point in time. Yeah. If you're making really good money right now and you haven't lost your shit, and hopefully I can cuss, it's coming, right? I feel like the greats, they always, and I'm not saying I'm great. I'm just saying that I've made money and I've lost money. And I think that's a good thing because you're taking risks. You're taking opportunities. And you're not always going to swing for the fences and hit a home run. And unfortunately, that was me in 2008, 2009, because I had this very expensive Oxycontin habit, spending $60 to $120 a day to use this small little pill called Oxycontin. And I was highly addicted for 2 years until I was 20 years old. And what saved me, by the grace of God, and I truly believe that God had this happen, I had a baby girl. I ended up getting her mom pregnant. I was 18 years old. I'm strung off Oxycontin, and having my daughter completely changed my life. And I was able to finally get clean from drugs. I've been clean from Oxycontin since November of 2009.
Awesome.
And yeah, so my whole life career was shaped back in 07, 08, 09 because sales was something I was able to take and implement where I'm at today. I dropped out of college in 07, 08. So I don't have this college degree. I don't have a family that was entrepreneurs that taught me the game. I just worked my butt off in my mid-20s, my early 20s, fortunate enough to have mentors in my life, people teach me some of the game, and ended up starting my own company about 4 years ago because I thought, you know what, I think being a business owner is where it's at. I'm competitive. Let me bet on myself and see where this takes me. And here we are 4 years later.
Wow. So Daniel, I love that because again, I think we kind of talked off screen that most people don't understand. Yes, you're here now, but they don't understand the backstory. They don't understand the locker room, the practices, the sweat, the blood, the tears, the frustrations, the headaches you had to go through. Talk to us a little bit about as you were starting your business. You came from sales, you hit this rock bottom. Your daughter comes in. It's a new fresh, new horizon, new fresh start. Now you want to start in this business. Never started business before, but new sales. How did you start to transition to become and create what you have today in Quest Education?
Yeah, I think the transition has to come from failing enough. And what I mean by that is I remember this story like it was yesterday. It was the first month or two in sales. I was 18 years old and I was making 20% commission off my sales. And what I put up in volume that week, my check should have been like $3,000 for the week. I'm 18 years old, keep in mind. I've never seen $3,000 in a week in my whole life, right? This is 07. And this is back in the day. Some of you maybe that are younger might not resonate with this. Maybe some of the older folks mid-range can laugh, but you got your paychecks on Friday and you went up to the front of the office where the admins were there and you told them your name and then they gave you the envelope with your check, right?
Yeah.
There was no direct deposit, none of that shit.
Right.
Right?
No, yeah.
I'm in the line with the other sales guys and we're just, shooting the shit, talking about what we're doing for the weekend, waiting for my name to get called up. She gives me the check and I'm like, man, $3,000. Let's go, baby. That 3,000 was already spent before I even opened the check, bear in mind. So I opened the check up and it says $1,800. I'm like, man, who canceled? Like, no one told me I had a deal canceled. Like, what's going on? And I flipped the check over. It was 3,000, but 1,800 was net because of the tax.
Right.
And my closer, my team leader at the time, I'm just setting appointments. So I'm like the low man on the totem pole. So my manager, my closer, he's behind me. And I'm like, dude, can you believe my check? What happened? He's like, dude, just claim zero. Like, just claim zero and you'll keep all that money. I'm like, for real? Is that easy? He's like, yeah, just claim zero. I'm like, all right. So I did the worst thing I could possibly do. No taxes were taken out of my checks from there on out.
Oh,
and no one taught me finance. I wasn't reading books. I wasn't putting in the work. So you know how this story ends. I did that for a few years and I had this massive tax bill, right? Where I owed a lot of money in taxes. So I say that because in my early 20s, late teens, I had to fail a lot like that, like not implementing a tax strategy, not setting up an LLC. I didn't believe I needed credit. I was thinking, man, I make good money. Why do I need a credit card? I didn't understand credit scores and business credit and utilization rates. So not having credit hurt me for a number of years. So the other concept, and I think we've all been not victim, but we've all made this mistake, is just spending more than you're making, right? I mean, I told you earlier, I lost my house. I lost my Range Rover. I was doing drugs. I was spending way more than I was making. So all of these things essentially was me touching the stove and just getting burned. Like I kept touching that stove and just burning myself, like self-inflicting wounds. And probably when I was like 22 years old is when I was just like, okay, I want a greater version of myself. I want to be able to provide for my daughter. I want to be able to pay my mom back everything that she's done for me. Like I got to grow up. So then I started building my credit. I set up an LLC. I started maximizing my deductions. I started saving more than I was spending, I started driving, instead of driving a Range Rover, I bought a Mazda 3 with no car payment, right? So I just did these types of things for a number of years. And I became good at what I did in the sense of being a good employee, managing people, leading people, bringing value to a business. And I did that for a number of years to where I was able to 4 years ago, to answer your question, Stephen, I felt confident starting Quest Education 4 years ago because I thought, you know what? I got money in the bank. I'm living below my means. I've got a bunch of money on 0% credit cards. I'm a big proponent of leveraging other people's money and using the bank's money to start a business. And I have a proof of concept. I have a way. And that at the time, I was working for a company that taught people how to access their retirement accounts penalty and tax-free. I'm like, this concept's so cool. Most people don't even know they can use their IRA or 401k penalty and tax-free to do things like fund a business or invest in real estate. I could build a business around this. I just need to have the right people in the right seats. And obviously it takes money, it takes risk. I'm going to put the chips on the table and go all in. And I would not have been able to do that though, if I didn't plant the seeds when I was 22, 23 years old. So it takes time.
Talk about that time there, because that gap, because you said, hey, I didn't know this stuff. I hit my hand a couple of times. I burned my hand, I burned myself here. I made the mistakes in my finance, made mistakes in my credit. There was a gap between what you did and what you're doing now. There was a knowledge gap. You didn't know any better. So how did you fill that gap as quick as you did? Well, I won't say as quick as you did but for us as elders, we're in our 30s, we realize, hey, time is quick. A year is quick now.
Yeah, I think in the very beginning, a lot of it was knowing what not to do, right? Knowing and learning and watching and seeing other people spend more than they were making, or on the outside making good money, but I knew in the inside they had a broken home. They had crappy relationships. They were over leveraged. They did drugs. They got drunk every night, right? So I would take note of, man, I don't want that, right? So there was a lot of that in my early 20s, my mid 20s. And then I was fortunate enough to have some good people in my life in that time frame that did share the game with me and give me some nuggets. And that does require you to set aside ego and be willing to be coachable and be willing to learn from others. And then I would say I started doing that a lot more about 4 years ago, 5 years ago. I'm a big proponent of personal development. I spend a lot of money in masterminds. I literally I live in Vegas. I just got back from Dallas. I go to Dallas once a month where I'm in a room of high caliber people. At the beginning of this podcast, I said I own a low 7-figure business and I write for Forbes. I don't say that again to say that, I'm the shit. I say that because you just know my story now. So if I can do all these things, why can't you? Right. That's really number one reason why I'm saying that. But number two, I'm also saying that because you have to put yourself in rooms where people are doing things way bigger than you, right? I'm in rooms. I intentionally put myself in rooms with people that are doing 8 figures, right? Here I am like, man, this is measly 7 figures. I'm like, that ain't shit. This guy's doing 50 million a year. What's he doing that's so different? How is he hiring? How is his culture? How's his operations? How's his marketing? So that's where personal development and being involved with masterminds is so valuable, because your environment and the people that you can learn from can speed up the process and get you from point A to point B, in less time without making as many mistakes. But it does take money and commitment to put yourself in that kind of opportunity.
Dan, I'm glad you said that, money and commitment, but personal development, because oftentimes we talk to a lot of CEOs and even consulting. You would think that you would know more because you had the title. But oftentimes there is an internal conflict, things that they're dealing with themselves, but they're not letting out. How do you go about, and how would you suggest someone, a thought-provoking leader, a CEO, someone who may be doing very well, but how do they skill up based on personal development, not just in their business, but skill up in their personal development to connect themselves and be in those circles with, like you said, other people who are doing better than what they are?
Yeah, I really think it comes down to just being honest with yourself. I'll be vulnerable with you guys. I've been with my wife for a long time. We've been together for about 10 years. We changed, right? I'm a different person than who I am today than when I was when I proposed to her. She is too. And there's just been some challenges in our relationships as we're growing. I run a business, we've got kids, she's got her own life, she's doing her career. Like we just have challenges, right? Like every couple has challenges. So I have to be honest with myself and realize, okay, shit, there's probably some things I could do differently. My relationship is not a 10 out of 10, right? It's great. I'm really lucky to have her, but it's not a 10 out of 10. And if you have some things that are 10 out of 10s, ride that wave. Ride that momentum, because they ain't going to be 10 out of 10 forever, right? Nothing could be 10 out of 10 forever, right? There's always going to be a downtime. So I took it upon myself. I'm like, man, I need to go see a therapist. Like I would love to get a woman's perspective. I'm a dude. I think I know everything. I'm right. Yeah. You're wrong. Right. Yeah. That's how a lot of guys think. Right.
My wife would say the same thing.
But after I say that, then I'm like, damn, I'm so wrong. Like, I am sorry. Yeah. Right? But I work on these things, and I intentionally sought out a therapist that's married, that's older, and that's a woman. And then I can be real with her and say, hey, I don't like when my wife does this. And she's like, well, you're an idiot, and here's why. And I'm like, damn, you're right. Shit, my bad. So you just got to be real and honest with yourself. Maybe it's not a relationship. Maybe it's your health. Maybe it's your relationship with your kids. Maybe it's your time management. Like there's something off. And yeah, it could be marketing. It could be financials. It could be employees. It could be you have a problem with hiring, firing. Like you just have to be honest with that challenge that you're experiencing. And there's people out there, as long as you're willing to be vulnerable, where you can get help. And I would rather come out and say, hey, I'm not a 10 out of 10 here, and here's my challenges I'm going through, and just keep it real. So in that way, they can give me feedback that actually can help me, instead of just walking around thinking or portraying this image that I have all my stuff figured out and I'm crushing it and I figured out life. Because no matter how successful you are, no one has it all figured out. Nobody.
Yeah.
How would you say your work culture is at your company, that where you're able to instill this kind of thought process? How do your employees relate with you?
We have a combination of younger folks, people in their 20s, people in their 30s like me, and we've got a couple sage people that are 50s. So I try to create a culture where there's accountability and people can speak their mind. Before I got on the call with you guys, I had a leadership meeting, and I had some of my teammates point out, hey man, like here's what you did wrong. And no one likes to be told that they did something wrong, right? Especially if I write your check, right? However, we're a team, and I have a role. I have a responsibility. I have a job description, and I'm not always going to swing and hit a home run. I might strike out, and I want to be in a room full of people that we have enough trust, or when I tell them, hey, you're messing up and here's what you need to do, or they say the same thing, that we just trust. It's coming from a place that we just want to win. And like, we just want to win. We want to help people with a great experience and solve a problem. And we want to keep these clients as long as we possibly can. And the best way to do that is to provide them exceptional experience. We're going to make mistakes, right? The way we do business, our leadership, our employees, like we're just going to make mistakes. So I like to have things just be out in the open, and everyone know each other's role and responsibilities, and work together for the common goal of winning.
In terms of your business's culture, how would you say you structured it post-pandemic so that you guys are countering, staying home? Are your employees staying home? Are they coming into work? How are you able to keep them motivated and follow the vision of the company?
Yeah, I thought it's pretty interesting that Elon Musk sent out that email to everybody and pretty much said that.
I got it. So bad for them.
Yeah, get your ass in the office. One, I'm a big Elon fan. Two, I probably would have thought that way. One, I did think that way before COVID. Like, I'm an old school sales guy, right? Like, I pound the phones. That's what I did coming up. So it's funny. One of my employees, probably 3 years ago before COVID, she brought up one day, she's like, hey, it'd be really nice if we can work from home. I can get my job done, and I would just love not to have to drive to work, and just I can work from home. I was like, Yeah, keep dreaming. Like that's just not happening. Like I'm used to in the office, give you a fist bump, and we can,
All
we
right.
can do what we need to do in person. And then COVID happened. I'm in Vegas, and they really shut down this city. So COVID really changed my business model, where we were forced to work from home for a period of time that was quite long. And I started to see that we actually could still win. Like the results were measurable, accountability was there. So I just trust the crap out of my team. I really don't agree with the email that Musk said, especially when he threw in, hey, I was sleeping on the floor. This thing would be bankrupt if it wasn't for me. I get it. You're the owner, so you're going to say things like that. But dude, not all of your employees are going to want to sleep on the floor. Not literally, but they don't all care about your business as much as you do. Like you can't expect that. And
Right.
Elon is way more richer than me, knows way more than me. So I could be wrong. I'm just sharing my opinion here. And it comes down to the business model, right? Like if you're building cars, you can't build a car from home. So there is some practicality there. If you own a restaurant, your employees can't make food from home. But we're in the business where we can work from home as long as we actually have the job done. I'm cool with it. So, I do have an office right now. I'm recording this podcast with you guys in my office. I'm staring at some of my employees right now. So I really give them the freedom. Some of my employees are like, dude, my husband is bothering me. He's annoying. Like, I want to come in the office. Okay, great. We've got stations for you. I've got some employees that are just like, I actually work more from home because I don't have to commute an hour a day. And then I just trust them. If they need to take a 2-hour break because they're going to go to the doctors, or maybe they need a 30-minute nap just because it is what it is. I don't care. As long as you aren't pissing off clients, you're getting your job done, you're not leaving your teammates hanging, and I can measure your results. And with technology, we can do that. So to answer your question, it's a full-on hybrid model, and I don't see that changing anytime soon. Yeah. So speaking of COVID, we had a lady that we helped in a way that was just really, really cool. It filled up my soul in terms of impact. And she was someone that wanted to start a school. That was her dream. She wanted to start a school, but got busy with her life, her job, and just everything else we get busy with. So she never started that school. But then COVID happened. And if you have kids, the education system got rocked, right? So she saw COVID as an opportunity. Hey, I can start an online school. Like, let's go. Let's run this. But she needed some funding to start the school. And at the time, she had a retirement account. I think it was an IRA or 401k from an old job. And we were able to teach her how she could access that money, take the money out penalty and tax free, and then start her school. And she was able to do that during COVID, started her school and was doing really well. And now things are back to normal, or getting back to normal. Her school is seeing kids in person, right? So it's not just online, it's offline too. So she's doing really well. And it's awesome to think that we played a small part, right? It still took risk. Everything that you put your money in, there's always risk, right? It took commitment on her end, but we were able to show her, how to use her retirement account in a penalty and tax-free way to start her business. So at the core of what we do, we teach people different types of retirement accounts that people may or may not qualify under IRS guidelines. And we teach them how they can access their retirement accounts penalty and tax-free, and then use the money in a bunch of different ways, like starting a business, investing in real estate, investing into crypto, precious metals, really just showing them that there's a lot of other options out there when it comes to your retirement accounts. And everything that we teach people is all IRS based, in the sense of, I'm not making up these retirement accounts. This isn't something that's brand new that just came out last year. This is all IRS guidelines, IRS approved. It's been around for decades. It's just most people haven't heard of this type of concept, this type of financial strategy. And a lot of it has to do with Wall Street, where your money is now. They don't make money when you do the things I just described. They want your money in the stock market. They don't want you to touch your retirement account. So that's why what we teach just really isn't known a whole lot.
When you show them how to take their capital out, do you also walk them through certain processes? Let's say like the lady that wanted to start the schools, or they want to invest in real estate. Do you have a team, or does your team assist them in that process as well?
When it comes to like their specific investment or their business, no, we don't play hand in that. We just facilitate the transaction and show them how to get the money out of their right pocket, penalty and tax free, put it in their left pocket. What they do and how they use that money, totally up to them. But we are set up to help people with really different types of financial solutions, where maybe they need some tax help. We've got some CPAs that we can send them to that can help them with some tax help. Maybe they need help getting an SBA loan or some kind of, loan. We can send them to a company that does that. So we just try to stay in our lane and be really, really great at what we do, which is setting up these types of accounts that I've been talking about. But then if there's other areas where they need help, we do our best to establish ourselves with, other financial companies, other companies that can help them, with that particular need.
How would you say you scaled your company from the transition of, you have a child, you're young. How did you actually get funding together to start this?
I maxed out 0% credit cards. I liquidated my stocks. It is a little painful to talk about it. I bought PayPal a little early in the game, and I sold everything. I sold all my stocks. So, sold PayPal, took my savings, had a bunch of 0% credit cards. And again, there's free money out there. And I don't think people understand that 0% is just like it sounds. It's 0%. They will give you a 0% interest rate on your credit card for 12 months, 15 months. Now, the interest is going to go from 0 to 20 after that 12 months, 15 months. But I got the bank's money at 0% for 12 months.
Yeah.
Like, let's go. That gives me plenty of time. But you don't get that kind of opportunity. Chase is not going to say, hey, Steven, here's 0% money for 12 months unless you're credit worthy. And that means you have to have good history. That means you have to have good credit. That means you have to have a score that impresses them, right? And again, that takes the work, that takes the time. But I think a lot of people look at credit cards, they look at debt as a bad thing. And it is, if you use your credit cards to go on vacation, that makes you zero money. And now you have interest and you're paying that every month versus you use the credit card to invest into something that can earn you money, right? There's a difference between good debt and bad debt.
Mm. I love the mantra that says the purpose of an expense or credit is to create an asset. The purpose of an asset is to create income. The income create cash flow. There's a whole cyclical cycle that basically helps you to build and become impactful that you are right now, that you all are doing. Think about the environment right now, Daniel, about what's so much happening. You talk about the real estate market. You got gas prices now. I'm in oil, so be kind, but be truthful. But also think about with the employment. You think about employment, what's happening. People are losing jobs. Not losing jobs. People are actually leaving jobs. And then the cost of labor is going up in business. How has that affected you all with everything that's happening right now with the uncertainty of just inflation, with the interest rates, with the uncertainty what's going on overseas, but it's affecting logistics. It's affecting everyday business, everyday life.
Yeah, I think one, from a standpoint of someone that employs people always want to make more money, right? That's a given. But what is their other motivations? I've had employees that their primary motivation isn't money. Their primary motivation is job security. It's flexibility. It's an opportunity to grow and manage people maybe. Their primary motivation is they truly believe in the mission and what we do, and they want to be a part of that. But then I also do have other people that, it is the money, and that's not wrong, right? Like, we all have different motivations, but as the leader, you should be able to know their motivations and find a way to help them get what they want. Because if you can help all of your employees and your teammates get what they want, you're going to get what you want. Just might take a little longer, right? I think a lot of people that aren't business owners, or maybe they're a one-man shop, there's going to be a time where you're going to write a check to everyone else. Everyone else is going to get paid, but you ain't going to get paid. right? There's been times where I've paid everybody. There wasn't money for me left over, but then I actually had to take money out of my savings and put money in just because I had a low month, right? Or I got hit with an expense I didn't, anticipate. And this is all learning, right? Learning business and learning to have reserves and liquidity and all that kind of fun stuff. But a lot of it is you learn on the fly, right? So I say these things because if you can help your teammates, your employees get what they want, eventually, that's the key word. Eventually, you're going to get what you want. I'm year 4 into this. I know my time to really reap the fruits of my labor is going to be down the road, right? Probably like when I'm like 38, 40 years old, that's when I'm going to feel like, okay, this is worth it. But that's just my perspective. That's my viewpoint. I could be wrong. I could be right. We'll see. But then on the flip side, as far as the financial side and, the inflation and all that kind of fun stuff, I actually just made a post about this not that long ago. I would take advantage of the credit game right now. It's so much easier to get money when you don't need it, right? When you need money, it's harder, right? That was me a few years ago during COVID. We had some cash flow challenges and it was harder. And now it's a lot easier. I'm getting 0% credit card offers. Hey, we'll give you money. Hey, we'll give you money. I don't need the money right now. However, I want to get as many lines of credit, as many 0% credit cards as I possibly can right now, because there might be a time when I do want that money, when I do need it. Maybe there's an investment opportunity or a marketing campaign or something I can invest in. And now I have the resources to do it.
And is that for you or for your business in terms of
both. Yeah, so I play the credit game, right, with points, right? Like shout out to Discover. They gave me 5%, on Target or gas, right? Like that's just free money. And if you're not paying interest to the banks and you're just taking advantage of Sky Miles and points and all that kind of fun stuff, then that's just playing the game.
What adversity challenges have you encountered now that you would say are different from when you first started Quest Education?
I would say being able to get the most out of everyone with the circumstances that we're in. And what I really mean by that is we're still learning this hybrid game. We're still learning to communicate and collaborate and work together better when we're not in person. There's pros and cons, right? Things can get lost in translation with an email, right? Or a message, on Google Chat. There's pros and cons. So, really just getting better at that togetherness, with the current situation that we're in. And I would say also marketing. Marketing's huge. I truly believe, going from 7 to 8 figures, just me being in the low 7 figures area and being around 8 figures, the two main differences that I see that allow them to go from 7 to 8 is their leads, their marketing is on point. Their leads in their marketing and their branding is not a weakness. I'm not super strong in that area, which is why I'm where I'm at. And then the other difference is the processes, the systems, the delegations, the scaling, things of that nature. So, those are the two things that I'm really focused on right now is getting better at, funnels and marketing and lead gen and having more input in my model. And then I can start to scale more and add more pieces to the puzzle and better systems and processes and, hiring more and things of that nature.
What kind of mindset do you think an entrepreneur would need to have? Top 3.
Well, I'm going to go with just straight tactics here, because if you're doing 6 figures as a business owner, I got to believe that your mindset's pretty decent. You know what you got to do. You're not trying to work for other people, right? So tactically, your offer has to be on point, right? It is what you're selling, solving a big enough problem that people feel comfortable giving you 10,000, 5,000, 500 a month, whatever that is. Like, is your offer compelling enough, right? Is it sexy? I'm in the financial space, so I have to figure out a way, how can my offer be attractive enough, right? So like you really need to make sure that your offer is on point. The pricing, the messaging, who you're offering it to, who's your ideal client, right? So the offer is huge. Number two, are you doing dumb stuff? And what I mean by that is like, are you doing your own books, right? Are you answering emails that you probably shouldn't answer, right? There's a thing called a VA, right? And a lot of people that are still doing six figures, they don't want to spend the money because they're just like, man, I'd rather do it myself, or that's just too expensive. You'd be amazed if you write down the things that you're doing, the tasks that you're doing, how much you can either delegate, automate, or delete, like completely stop doing it, because your time is precious. In the very beginning, you're probably the salesperson. You're probably generating the revenue if you're doing six figures and you're a solopreneur, right? So you need to focus more on that. And why would you be spending money doing something that you can pay someone $10 for when you can be spending that same time and make $1,000?
Yeah.
Like every single person listening to this is going to be like, yeah, that's dumb. However, we still do it. I did it, right?
So many people.
Yeah, I'm not saying
I do it.
yeah, I think this because I have it all figured out. But again, you shouldn't be doing dumb stuff like that. Like, what are you good at? What drives the revenue? What is the most important thing that you can do that can move the needle? Do more of that and do less of the other stuff, right? And that requires you to relinquish control. That does require you to build some SOPs and some systems so you can delegate it and bring in some help. So that'd be the second aspect. And then the third aspect would be, if you really want to go from six figures to seven figures, you need to hang around with people that are doing seven figures. Like if you're just hanging around with people that are doing six figures, you're probably just going to be stuck doing six figures. And the only reason why you're going to want to stay that way is if you like being the biggest fish in the pond, where you make 500 grand a year and your friends make 200 grand a year and you feel better about yourself. But what do you want? Do you want to grow? Do you want to do more? Then you need to be in a different room, right? You need to, again, that old concept, birds of the same feather flock together, right? So that's been helpful for me to, be in a room where I'm the small fish in the pond and I'm just soaking it up.
I definitely will be implementing some of those tactics, especially delegation.
Delegate, automate, delete.
I like that.
I like that.
That phrase is perfect.
But we got a hashtag Daniel Blue for that, or hashtag Quest
Yeah,
Education.
we gotta put that on there. That's definitely something a lot of
Well,
people, even though they are experienced in terms of time, haven't made a habit to put in healthy habits that would allow them to break that financial ceiling and keep making more profit. But I do want to thank you, Mr. Blue, for coming on our show today. Mr. Blue does have some good news for you guys. Please visit danielblue.me and tell them what they would get if they were to visit that website.
Yeah, people can check out that site if they want to learn more about me. I've got a book that I wrote called Blueprint to Your Best Retirement. It hit bestseller status in a few categories on Amazon. It teaches people how to access their retirement account penalty and tax-free, so they can scoop that book up on Audible or Kindle or a physical copy. I've got my own podcast called How Winners Win. I've got a co-host. His name is Key Todd. We drop an episode every week. I think now we're about 60, 70 episodes. So a little over a year, we've been dropping content. The goal of that podcast is to help people win in their personal lives, their financial lives, their entrepreneurial lives. So, we're on all the major platforms with the podcast. That's been fun. You can check me out there. And then I've got a lot of free content on there, a lot of articles, a lot of, just tactical information, along the lines of what we've been discussing. And then if you do have a retirement account and the idea of accessing that money, penalty and tax free, has got you kind of thinking up in your noggin, you're like, man, how do I do this? I'd like to know more. There is some information on the site where you can take steps to make that happen.
Hey, and we're back. Listen, I hope you enjoyed that conversation with Daniel Blue of Quest Education, man. He provided a lot of information, and his work ethic, like you talked about, was amazing.
It was impeccable.
I mean, you see how the guy, he moved through the trenches, and he got through what he had to get through. So guess what? he has a free consultation for you. For those who are still listening, if you want to utilize that free consultation, it shows you how to take your 401k and leverage your business, to utilize it to start, grow, expand your business by using your 401k. It's your retirement money. Utilize it. So you can access that link in that free consultation on our website at richfridays.com. Again, that is richfridays.com. And also be sure to tune in every Wednesday at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And like Nika just said, subscribe wherever you watch podcasts. Subscribe to Rich Fridays podcast. Watch 50 Rich Professionals. That is us. I always do this because it's like, this is the shirt. This is the thing. This is 50 Rich Professionals. That's us. So make sure you subscribe, listen, and tune in every Wednesday at 1 p.m. I'm Stephen Palmer.
And I'm Nika Chukra.
We're your host, and we look forward to seeing you soon. Bye for now.